Hi everyone, welcome to this episode of Keipert Labs. In today's video we're going to go through the concepts of average versus instantaneous velocity. Okay, so we've been thinking so far this idea about velocity is equal to distance over time. Okay, we have done this formula with speed equals distance over time. We've also looked at this idea that speed and velocity are highly similar, but that velocity gives the added information of a direction. And so we're going to frame these in these terms now. And so we've looked at this idea that okay, we can work out how fast an object is going, its velocity in meters per second, if we work out the distance it's traveling in meters divided by the time that it's taken in seconds. Okay, and we've worked with this formula. We've rearranged it to be able to find things that we don't know. But the reality is, okay, let's look at one particular example. We talked about Usain Bolt, okay, running 100 meters of distance in 9.58 seconds. Okay, and so this is saying, all right, so you know that's the distance that he covers when he does the sprint. And this is the time that it takes for him to do that, and so we end up with a value of around about 10.4 meters per second. But now the reality is that especially if you watch Usain Bolt do the sprint, okay, whether you watched the final on when in the 2016 games or whatever, or I mean I know this was not his time there, but if you watch him run, he's not covering 10.4 meters of distance for every second that he runs in that race. Because you think about it, he's got to start from being completely still on the blocks. And so for that first second that he's running, he's unlikely to be traveling quite that fast. Okay? But then in the next second that he's running, he'll be getting a bit faster. And the next second he'll be getting faster and faster and faster. And then, he'll get to probably 70 or 80 meters in the race, and he'll be going at amazingly quick. And then he might even start to back off a little bit. Sometimes it's amazing to watch. And so what we say is that it's like, okay, well, this is his, this is the velocity that we've worked out. But what we actually can call this is Usain Bolt's average velocity. So that the total distance over the total time taken, this is kind of what it works out to be. But that at different points in the race that he might be going faster. So maybe at 1 second maybe he's going 3 meters per second, and then at 7 seconds maybe he's going 15 meters per second. And so what we would call these values is what we would say is an instantaneous velocity. That is, it's how fast he is going at a very specific instant in time. Okay, so it's like if, imagine if you're watching the race and you could take photographs or kind of take an observation of how fast he's going at very specific kind of intervals in that race. Maybe every second or every, tenth of a second or every hundredth of a second, that you could actually measure exactly how fast he was traveling or how much time that he covered that, the previous 10 meters or the previous meter or whatever, and then you can track how his velocity is going for every instant or over a much shorter interval. And you get a better idea, especially if you were, say, someone like Usain's coach, that you might want to be able to, that might be useful information to you to be able to identify that, okay, well, maybe you're starting off a bit slow, or maybe, backing off a bit too soon, or whatever, okay, in terms of technique. Okay, to give you another example, that perhaps you might have more directly experienced yourself, let's say that you're traveling to Sydney from Coffs. Okay, and so let's say it's, 560 kilometers, okay, of distance, and let's say it takes you 6 hours of time. Okay, so we could use this approach and say that, all right, what's our velocity? Okay, or we could say 560 kilometers is, and then it took us 6 hours. I'll be a bit more accurate with my units here. And so then we could work that out, and then calculate the velocity there. But then the reality is that we know that when you're making a long car trip, that there are portions of that journey that you are going fast, and there are other portions of that journey that you're going slowly. So maybe in certain point, you're in a 110 kilometer per hour zone, and so you're going really quickly. Maybe at another point that you've got to travel through an urban area, and so it's 50 kilometers per hour. Maybe at another point that you've got to slow down even further because it's a school zone or it's a roadwork zone. Or maybe then you've got a different section which is zoned for 80 kilometers an hour. And, maybe you get stuck in traffic on a single lane behind a slow driver, and so you've got to slow down, and then okay, you're getting the point. As far as saying that, just saying, all right, well, it was this many kilometers and it took that many hours, doesn't accurately reflect how fast you were going at a particular moment in that journey, at a particular spot on the trip, or a particular kind of, like at a particular section. So we could do this calculation and get the average velocity, but then we might be more interested in what was your instantaneous velocity. So how fast were you going at a particular instant in that journey? This is something that, say, perhaps a police officer or the operator of a speed camera would be thinking, because, perhaps you might be saying, all right, well, I averaged out to, whatever this kind of works out to be, but at a particular instant you were going over the speed limit, in which case then you get booked. Okay, so being able to identify that these two things are different, yes, they are both referring to how fast you are traveling, but that one looks at the total distance and the total time taken, and one is looking at a particular instant in time. Okay, and so that these things are similar but different, but then there may be information that's useful to you at one point or another. Okay, and so the narrower we make our time intervals, the closer we get to the velocity at a particular moment. Whether we're looking at how far you travel in 1 minute of that journey gives you a better idea of how, what your average speed was what your instantaneous velocity was at that particular interval. Maybe if you could measure how far you travel in 1 second, you get even closer. You keep narrowing the interval, getting shorter and shorter and shorter. You're working out more of the speed at that particular spot. Okay? Alright, thanks very much for watching. Bye for now.